asked why Rick Smith is being so transparent.
You know what I think?
You were asking about
I asked that too because I've not met Rick Smith in person, but I did feel like when I heard him on your show, and then I was like, wow, he's really been everywhere. We don't usually hear agents like that.
Yeah.
I think a big part of the interest in how it went with the Bears is because he's from here. Like because of his history with Chicago and he understands the franchise.
I don't think so.
You don't think so?
No, I really don't think. I asked him straight out, did you have to put your own bias aside? Like whether you are a fan of the Bears,
right,
or whether or not you think that they have really screwed things up and don't know what they're doing. And he said, yes, a little bit. I had to put that aside in the beginning.
Right.
And so...
But you don't think that's why people are so interested in his take because he knows the Bears so well? From being a fan and being here and being as close as he is?
I don't know if it's people are interested, but for him to be speaking out, maybe it's because he's one of the, I'm going to use a term he used, not me. He's one of the dinosaurs in agents.
Right.
And that he, listen, he can't be like the young guys. He can't, stroll around in, $1,000 suits and take, these players out to the clubs and impress them
right,
and get them, to sign with him. He's just being real, and being real as someone my age is like, hey, listen, this is what I do. I'm a lawyer. I have done this my whole career. I know how to get it done. And, he really advised Ben Johnson. He made sure Ben Johnson did not start listening to his heart.
Mm-hmm.
And that, I'm just going to play this part for you because I thought this was really interesting. We all heard from Ben Johnson in the press conference how much he loves Chicago, how he brings his family to Wrigley every summer, and how long did he actually have his eye on Chicago? What was he really like? Is this something that he was going to say yes no matter what, because he always wanted to be in Chicago? And this is what Ben Johnson had to say about, or this is what Rick Smith had to say about Ben Johnson's heart being in Chicago.
Well, I think it was always in his heart, but I never let him get there. Because, when you have choice, there's very few coaches, honestly, that have choices in a cycle. There's one or two max in every cycle that has really potentially could have multiple offers from multiple teams. And I knew going in that Ben would be one of those two. So I forced him to keep his head blank as best as possible. And I didn't have a lot of time to talk to him. The season's going on. I would talk to him 15 minutes every Friday when he put his game plan to bed, as he always said. And then I was only able to make my final presentation to him with all the information I learned on the Sunday after the Lions were eliminated by the Commanders. And I think when he woke up Monday morning and told me to try to get a deal done with the Bears, I think the Bears were always in his heart, but I never let them communicate that to me, and I didn't want to know that because I wanted him to be able to understand the risks and rewards potentially of every team that he would have a choice to work at.
So the natural follow-up question there was, what was the number 2 team?
Mm-hmm.
If the Bears had not met the range in terms of how many years and how much money,
mm-hmm.
and if Rick Smith said, if they weren't even in the ballpark,
he would have gone back to a great job.
It would have been done.
Yeah.
They would have moved on. He was not going to go back and forth and back and forth and back and forth. It was like, here's what we're looking at. Here's the range we want, and this is for how long we want it. And they said, okay, let's work this out. Let's get it done.
There is a different confidence that an agent and a client come with when they know they have options. It's a different confidence. It's a different attitude. It's okay, that's fine. You do what you want to do. We know that we're going to get this somewhere. If it's not you guys, we'll find it somewhere else, right?
So Rick Smith, when I asked him what was his number 2 team, he said, I never got there.
Right.
Because we got it done with his number 1 choice.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll never know. But what about Tom Brady?
What about
what
Tom
about
Brady?
Tommy Brady? This is what Rick Smith had to say about Tom Brady.
None of that was true. I mean, yes, Tom and I, and Tom and Ben, during their interview with the Raiders, yeah, they were intrigued, and they were really intrigued by Ben a lot. It never got to a point to determine whether or not they would, actually make an offer or not. They never did make an offer because we didn't allow that to happen. My style is I'm going to team one first, and I'm giving you a window of time to get this done. And if you blink on me, then I may go to team two. I never got to team two because I didn't know. We got it done with team one, so I don't even know what team two was in Ben's mind because we never had to get there. But Tom was definitely interested, but no, they never made an offer. Mark Davis said that the other day, and he's correct. As far as Ben wanting to bring his own general, no. That he just needed a comfort level that he could work with the general manager that was in place, if that was the hand that was dealt to us, or if there was an open GM spot that, there would be discussions about allowing him to be a part of the process to pick a next guy. But it wasn't, no, it's me and somebody else. I think that's a hard pill for a team to swallow, and I don't really think it's necessary. As long as you feel a connection and a comfort level with the general manager you're going to be working with, then you're good.
Yeah, and in terms of Ryan Pohl's contract, he said it totally was not important, that it was more
It's
a matter
so
of whether or not Ben felt comfortable with Ryan Pohl's, and did not even ask when his contract is up. And they are just assuming that they are going to be successful, and then the two will be hitched for a long time.
We're such a reactionary society, right? Like, it's just, we hear something and we run as fast as we can with it. It's because it's like, oh my God, okay. Can we all just exhale? Like,
yeah,
that was, it just was so, I wonder how many other things suddenly have a life of their own that aren't actually real things. Like,
right.
Like, calm down, everybody. Like, and sometimes, I mean, I love the worldwide leader, but sometimes they tell us what to think about stuff, right? Like, stuff comes out on ESPN and we're all like, oh, well, like, that has to be factual.
Right. And here's the thing that,
and I'm not talking about
I like
Good
that you
Karma
just
Brands ESPN. I'm talking about like big ESPN, the mothership.
Right. I think that a lot of it is because they are media stars now. They are not actually reporting.
Right.
And so when you don't come from a reporting background, they might, ex-players might make a couple extra phone calls. Like, I'm sure Tom Waddle and Yurko make phone calls to guys that they played with to ask questions. Whether it's a Trace Armstrong, who would never return any of my calls in the past. Right. Never returned any, even though I covered him. Never returned any of my calls. But like a Frank Bauer, who was Lovie Smith's agent, was fantastic to deal with. He would pick up the phone. It's just, I think the older guys are better with that than the younger guys. Mm-hmm. But let's not forget, they also play the game of planting stuff that they want out there.
Yes.
So did he squash the Tom Brady talk?
No.
Because it worked in their benefit.
Right.
Let the Bears think that there's competition. So he didn't squash it, but he also didn't plant it.
But the Bears knew there was competition, which is why they were like, if this is who we really want, this is what we have to do to get him.
Yeah.
Now let's operate with that same conviction when you're building your roster. That's all. That's all I'm asking for.
I think that's fair. So if you want to hear that entire interview with Rick Smith, you can find the audio version on the ESPN Chicago app under the Sportscaster and Her Son. It's also on the Sportscaster and Her Son YouTube page, which maybe when we post today, we can put a link in our description today so that people know where they can find that interview as well.